What if, instead of choosing Edward, becoming a vampire, and having Renesmee, Bella had decided to stay with Jacob? What would her life with the wolves have been like? What would Edward have done? And who would Jacob have imprinted on, since Renesmee wouldn't exist? In this video, we'll explore possible scenarios in a what-if of the most popular vampire saga in film. Even though Bella's first love was Edward, starting in New Moon, her feelings became divided between two loves. Edward, the vampire offering a life full of mystery and passionate love in the eternity of immortality, and Jacob, the loyal and warm friend who brought her peace and a mortal life connected to humanity. So, from here, we can imagine how things might have unfolded. Her life with Jacob. Bella's life with Jacob would have been very different from the one she experienced with Edward and the Cullens. With Jacob, her life would have been much more human, rooted in the everyday world of Forks and La Push, with a sense of stability and simplicity that her relationship with Edward could never offer. Bella would have had to give up the idea of becoming a vampire, remaining human and growing old naturally. This path would have brought more certainty about her future, without facing immortality, supernatural conflicts, or the implications of becoming an immortal. Bella would have followed a more typical life path, possibly studying, working, and enjoying family and friends in a stable, grounded way. Bella and Jacob would have built a home in La Push, where Bella would be deeply connected to the Quileute reservation community. This setting would mean a simpler, family-oriented life, far from the wealth and mystique of the Cullens' world. Her bonds with the pack would likely have deepened, and her relationship with Jacob would have been less dramatic, but far more predictable and secure. On the other hand, remember that Quileute werewolves like Jacob age much slower as long as they continue to transform. As years passed, Bella would reach adulthood and eventually old age, while Jacob would still look youthful, especially if he continued transforming regularly. Bella, as a human, would face the physical and emotional changes of aging while seeing Jacob almost immortal by her side. Jacob could choose to stop transforming into a wolf, which would allow him to age normally. If he took this path, Jacob would age alongside Bella, accepting a human life with all its cycles and the inevitability of growing old. However, giving up transforming could have been hard for Jacob, as it would mean leaving behind his role in protecting his community and his identity as a wolf. Even so, the visible age difference between Bella and Jacob could have led to inner conflicts. Bella, in her aging process, might feel insecurities or reflect on the passage of time, as she did in her dreams with Edward. Meanwhile, Jacob, seeing her grow older, would have to face the idea of losing her one day. Ultimately, if Jacob kept transforming and Bella aged naturally, the couple would eventually reach a point where their paths would inevitably part. Bella, as she aged, would one day face a human death, something Jacob would have to accept. There's also the possibility that Bella and Jacob would have children and start a family, a key difference in her life with Jacob. If Bella and Jacob had children, the mix of human and werewolf genetics would create unique offspring. Bella and Jacob's children would likely inherit the werewolf gene, though they might not transform immediately or automatically. The ability to transform might remain latent, only activated under special circumstances, like a vampire threat in the area. They may also possess greater strength, speed, and endurance compared to ordinary humans. They'd have notable physical capabilities, along with heightened immunity and the ability to heal quickly, similar to werewolves, even without transforming. This would give them physical advantages, but it would also set them apart. In her relationship with Edward, parenthood was complicated, as being a vampire prevented Bella from experiencing human motherhood. And as we know, Renesmee grew up too fast to even experience a normal childhood. But with Jacob, Bella could have had a family and experienced motherhood in a human context, something that would have been significant not only for her, but also for her parents, Charlie and Renee. Her relationship with her family would also have been different in many ways, especially compared to her life with Edward and the Cullens. Choosing a human life with Jacob, Bella could have enjoyed a closer, more consistent relationship with her family, particularly with her father, Charlie. By staying with Jacob, Bella would have had the chance to remain in Forks and live a more typical life. Charlie always felt that Bella's relationship with Edward was intense and hard to understand, and he was concerned about how fast things were moving. On the other hand, Charlie knew and trusted Jacob and probably would have approved of their relationship. This would have allowed Bella and Charlie to share family moments and have a more relaxed relationship. Bella wouldn't have felt the need to leave Forks or hide any supernatural secrets, making it easier for Charlie to be part of important milestones in her life, like potential weddings, the birth of grandchildren, and so on. This would have brought great satisfaction to Charlie, who always valued having Bella close. Regarding Renee, Bella could have visited her mother frequently and spoken openly about her life, giving peace of mind to both Renee and herself. But it wouldn't all be perfect. With Renesmee out of the picture, the possibility of Jacob imprinting on someone else would have remained. In Quileute mythology, imprinting is an inexplicable and uncontrollable phenomenon that occurs when a werewolf finds their ideal partner. It could be a romantic partner, a protector, or a close friend. Imprinting doesn't depend on the werewolf's current will or feelings, meaning that even if Jacob was deeply in love with Bella, he wouldn't be able to avoid imprinting if it happened. If Jacob and Bella had a stable life together and Jacob imprinted on someone else, he would be emotionally torn. Imprinting creates a bond so deep that even his love for Bella might not compare to the connection he'd have with his imprint. This situation might create inner conflict for Jacob, torn between his loyalty to Bella and the pull of his imprint. Understanding how imprinting works, Bella might struggle to accept this situation. She was always understanding of Jacob's supernatural side, but watching him bond so intensely with someone else would be painful. Bella would likely try to do the right thing and let Jacob follow the imprint, even if it meant sacrificing herself emotionally and ending the relationship. However, imprinting isn't always romantic, as we saw with Quill and Claire. If Jacob imprinted on someone else, it might be a protective or friendly bond rather than romantic. This would allow him to stay with Bella without issues. But any form of imprinting would affect his life and require him to devote time and attention to the person involved. Yet it's also possible that Jacob would never imprint on anyone else. And what about Edward and the Cullens? Despite the pain it would cause him, Edward would have respected Bella's choice above his own desires. His love for her always included wanting her to be happy and safe, even if that meant seeing her with Jacob. To avoid influencing or interfering in Bella's life, Edward would probably choose to distance himself. This departure would be a sacrifice, a way of letting Bella fully live her life with Jacob without his constant presence. Edward had already experienced the pain of separating from Bella in New Moon, and he would likely go through a similar grieving process again. In his sadness, he might isolate himself from his family or withdraw to process his emotions alone. Even though Edward would respect Bella's decision to choose Jacob, his protective instincts would likely lead him to watch from afar, ensuring she's safe. Perhaps, without Bella knowing, Edward would continue to discreetly protect her from potential supernatural threats. In time, Edward would come to accept that Bella was meant for a different life. But could Edward love again? Although his love for Bella was unique and intense, in this scenario, he might eventually find someone else to share his life with. However, this would be very difficult, as his love for Bella left a deep mark. It's likely Edward wouldn't actively seek a new relationship, instead focusing on other aspects of his immortal existence. If he never found another partner, Edward would likely live with Bella's memory, cherishing what she meant to him. This experience of loss and unrequited love would give him a deeper perspective on love and sacrifice, making him an even more complex and profound character. And what about the wolf-vampire conflict? The relationship between the Cullens and the Lapush wolves would be less tense thanks to Bella. By choosing Jacob, Bella would align more with the pack, meaning the Cullens would likely take extra care to respect the territory and the original treaty. As Bella's romantic interest, Jacob would mediate, trying to avoid conflicts with the Cullens out of respect for Bella. However, there would always be some tension, as wolves naturally distrust vampires. By not being with Edward, Bella probably wouldn't have been transformed into a vampire. This would worry the Volturi, who would consider Bella a risk due to her knowledge of vampires. If the Volturi decided to intervene, both the wolf pack and the Cullens might unite to protect Bella from any attack or punishment, as they did in Breaking Dawn. Nonetheless, Edward would eventually have to leave Forks due to his nature, and the risk of humans questioning his eternal youth, forcing him to say goodbye to Bella forever. Let me know in the comments what other topics you'd like to see covered on the channel, and remember, if you enjoy this type of video, the best way to support me is by leaving a like, subscribing, and turning on the notification bell. See you in the next video.